Hi guys, this is Amanda. I've been meaning to make this video for a really long time. Last month with my kids' homeschool group, I led a taper candle making activity and it was really fun, and I couldn't really find much information on YouTube about how to do a dipped candle project with kids. So I'm going to go over that, and then I will show you some tips that I used for how we made more candles at home later. And yeah, we use beeswax. So the video, I'll just briefly be going through everything. I'm done making the candles for this year and I've been trying to put the stuff away. So this video won't be like me showing you how to do it, just because I'm not really set up for that from a video standpoint yet. But I will do the best I can to explain my process. Okay, so for the kids, we made beeswax taper candles, and this is just an example of what they looked like when we were done, and except for a little bit thicker than this. The way that I found was the best way to do this was to give each kid a popsicle stick, and they wrote their name with Sharpie on the stick, and then they took a length of this, it's 2/0 cotton wick, and this is the right kind of wick that you want to use for beeswax. So they made a big enough section so that when they wrapped it around this popsicle stick 2 times, and there were 2 pieces hanging down, it was about the right height for the candles that they wanted. Which we made about, it just depended on the kid. One girl made really long candles, and some other kids made like probably about 10" was the normal length. So what we did is that we, here, I'm going to set the camera down and then I will kind of show you the finished product. Okay, this is approximately what they looked like, except you would want the wicks to be a little bit more even. And then we just put masking tape on the top here and just tried to keep them spread out. So that's why you kind of wrap them around twice so they don't bump each other when they get bigger. Then we had a line going around the room, and I had my double boiler pot set up. I will show you that now. So these are 2 pots that I use for the wax. The one downside for beeswax candles, or any taper candle, is that you need a lot of wax in your container so that you can dip your wicks in and dip the candles in. These are 2 pots I got at an auction, so they were really cheap. And the reason I did it with like this instead of like a long narrow candle dipping pot was because I thought this would be safer. There'd be like less water, less area around the outside for the kids to like get their hands in the hot water. So anyway, I have this big pot, and then I filled it to water so that when the pot with the beeswax in it was inside, the water was about up to here. Then I used the whole night before to melt the wax. It takes a really long time to melt beeswax. And what I do on my stove, I turned it to the very lowest setting, which is a simmer setting. So like all the way down here. And that just gets the water. It will overheat once all the wax is melted, but if there's still wax that is melting, it won't get too hot on that setting. So like I said, it takes a really long time for it to melt, and depending what kind of wax you're using, you might need to add more wax. This is what the pot looks like with all the wax hard. So for this, I can save this and then use it again, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to store it like this. Beeswax, and I'm pretty sure any wax, but especially beeswax, when it hardens, it shrinks. So this was actually full to the top when it was melted, but when it cools, it shrinks. So it that's why it has like this hole down in the middle. When you have a big chunk like this that's already been melted in your pot, what you have to watch is that it will start melting from the bottom up. So it will kind of start pushing out the top layer, and then it could overflow theoretically. So what I do is I just have like chopsticks, and occasionally I gently like push holes down through it, and it lets the liquid come up through, so it kind of doesn't overflow. I have bought beeswax pastilles before, but for this one I used beeswax chunks. And I think I'm going to do a series just on beeswax candles if I have time. We bought some wax at an auction, and it was from a company that was using the wax to coat the outsides of food containers, like cardboard food containers. And so when they sold the business, they poured all their wax back into the boxes that they come in. So they were one big chunk. So I basically broke them all up and used a lot of these in the for the taper candles. And because beeswax is really expensive, the best price I found is by buying it in 50-pound bags or boxes. And I bought them from Bulk Apothecary, which is in Ohio, which isn't, I can't remember how far of a drive it was, but I went up and picked up a box there once. And then I also have the beeswax from the auction. And I also have, I have beehives. I'm a beginning beekeeper, so I have beehives. I have some wax from keeping bees, but we normally use the comb honey, so I don't have a lot of wax from our bees. So yeah, if you can find beeswax at an auction, that's a great way to go, but it's kind of an uncommon thing to find. So, so yeah, I was pretty excited about that. So anyway, you just kind of keep adding the chunks in. Okay, so at the homeschool thing, I had the beeswax melted, and then I also had this extra pot, melting pot that I had full of wax, because as the kids are dipping the candles, they'll use up a lot of the wax. So when the main dipping pot started getting low, I would just add more melted wax to it, which was challenging because we were having it in a cold building. It was about 40 degrees in the building. So we made like an insulated container to put that electric wax melter. So we had this main pot on a turkey fryer base with propane that we took. I was worried that the electric wasn't going to work, to have the electric one be the main dipping pot, which is good that I did that because the electric, something happened to it the day that we had the class and it didn't work. So the turkey fryer worked great for the kids because it was like down lower than like what a stove is. So it was really the perfect height for the class. So anyway, the kids would take their sticks and I had them dip them, and then they would walk around the room that we were in and let them cool off. And then when it was their turn, they would dip them again. The first couple dips, they would kind of pull their fingers down along the wick just to make sure it was straight. And as they got towards the end, they would cut off the ends of the candles. So these are some of the candles we made. So they look pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how I made more candles at home. And I used either the ruler or these wooden things. And towards the end, I just hung them on buckets like this. And I would use the popsicle stick method, worked really well. And then I would just set the popsicle sticks over this and let them dry and kind of do a bunch at a time like that. And then I also have these dipping frames, and these actually hung really well from my stove vent. So I would dip them, hang them up, and with these you take your wick, you tie it onto the bottom one of the bottom ones, bring it up, over, down, over, up, over, down, and kind of make it around. So each one of these will make 6 candles, and these are from Candle Chem. But when you're dipping, you also get a lot of wax on this middle part, which is okay. But at the very end, I would cut my candles right here. They would come off, and then I would just put the dipping frame back in the pot of melted wax, and it would slowly melt off, and then I could use it again. The one thing that you have to kind of be aware of with the dipping frames is that in the beginning, they don't displace a lot of the wax, but as the candles get bigger, they do displace a lot of wax, so you don't want to have too much wax in here when you're getting towards the end of dipping these framed ones. This pot isn't really deep enough to have the candles going all the way, because as you go they get points on them. So you can either cut some of the points off, or sometimes I would just put it in at an angle, drop it in, kind of spin it, and then bring it up straight. And for me, that's fine. If you were trying to enter your candles in a fair or something like that, it might not work. But yeah, so that worked great. I really love those frames, and I might get some more just because they made the candle making process a lot easier and quicker than, you know, doing it by hand. And they ended up being straighter, which, I mean, I kind of like the wonky shaped ones, but the straight ones are nice too. So yeah, that worked really well. If you didn't have like a vent hood like I do, you could just hang them on something like that that's like in between a bucket or something like that, or make a frame. So these are some of the ends that I cut off. You want to cut the ends of the candles off when they're warm still, and I just used a knife and like I get lots of knives from yard sales, so just a knife I don't really care about. But if you can easily get the melted wax off of a knife. You just melt it and then wipe it with a paper towel. And an old cutting board, because a cutting board, you can't get it off as easily because it's plastic, so you can't really use melting to get the wax off. So this one, obviously, I don't care about. It's cracked already. It was from an auction and was probably basically free. So it made a good surface for the candles. So yeah, just cut the ends off, and then I would dip them one more time. And occasionally I would roll them a little bit to make them a little straighter if they were a little wonky or something like that. But all in all, that was the whole process. Thank you guys so much for watching. I wish I could have shown my whole process in a, you know, more beautiful type of video, but this works for now, and I hope it helps you if you're trying to do a taper candle making project with your kids or just for yourself. Just some of the things I was learning as I went along, and yeah, just how to make them at home, because I wasn't able to find a ton of information. So I hope you guys are having a good holiday season. Talk to you later. Bye.